And how exciting is this? I'm excited, everybody, because joining me now is a man who's had number ones, a Christmas number one to boot. He's sold more than 2 million albums and he starred in the West End. It's only Matt Cardle. Hello.
Oh, well, there's an intro. Thank you so much.
No, listen, you were a very busy boy from the word go, and it was the X Factor that you won. And I mean, straight in at number one, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was. I mean, to be fair, Georgey, at the time, after getting onto the show, or even getting to the live show, once you get to the live shows, I started to become numb to these things. Believe me,
right.
You could have told me most anything, and I would have just been kind of okay with it. Everything was just starting to become so crazy. And then I win, and then I go on, and then we get the number one, and it was all too good to be true, to be honest.
Gosh, I mean, your face. I mean, thinking back to you actually it being announced and everything, you were in total disbelief. Actually,
I really was. I mean, I was happily, not even just happily. I was over the moon at my second place. To Rebecca Ferguson. I was celebrating that.
I was over the moon to come second, but actually, no, it got better than that,
no,
Cardle.
Yeah, it did. It really did. I was like, how did I get second? I mean, looking at Rebecca I was kind of looking at her going, wow, well done, baby. You just won X Factor. That's incredible. And next thing it's like a bomb went off next to me. It was very,
Listen, we need to talk about, your new album, the fourth album that's out, Time to Be Alive, and also we need to talk about your single. But in between then and now, a lot has happened to you, and not all good.
No, it's been a very interesting, a few years for me. After I did 3 albums in 3 years after X Factor, which is just...
That must be exhausting.
It was exhausting, and to be honest, Georgey, it would have been exhausting for someone who was with Sony for all albums, but I wasn't. I left after the first one. The first album sold over 300,000 copies. It was a platinum album, yet, they wanted me to move on and vice versa. And,
right.
So to do 2 independent albums, putting my own money into it each time, it burnt me out, and when I left Sony, that hurt, that hurt a lot. So I was reeling from that for about 3 years,
Really?
Absolutely, until the time that I was actually in rehab with prescription drug addiction and alcohol abuse. It was like that at the core of, it took a long time to realise just how much it had affected me. I'm living in LA, I'm writing my second album, I'm there in a beautiful suite in Sunset Boulevard, and I get told that I don't have a record deal anymore. And it smashed me into a million pieces. And then at the same time, my relationship broke down, and it was, I was just on a downward spiral. And then, I found the scripts. I found the thing that numbed the pain and that took away all care, for how I was feeling, and it led me very quickly down a slippery slope to, one of the darkest, moments of my life.
Can you remember that? Can you remember how bad it really was that you when you were down there, the very lowest, or do you choose not to remember that?
No, I do. I mean, some of it, if not a lot of it, is very blurry. I sometimes speak to people that remember more than me about that time. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was just the. I never knew what withdrawing from benzos, which is what Valium, diazepam are.
Right.
I never knew what benzo withdrawals were like, and they hurt. And when you're weaning yourself off these things in the Priory, you're in pain. It's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable experience weaning yourself off. And this was happening to me in public, and I was unaware of it because I was obviously eating these things so often, but then sometimes I would run out and I would have to go a day without them, and then what would ensue with that, I didn't know what was happening to me, and it was some of the most terrifying experiences that I've ever had.
Were you in touch with your family at that point? Did they know what was going on in your life?
No, they didn't, because I was hiding it. I was hiding it from absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Weirdly, my postman knocked at my mum's door and asked if I was okay, because he had seen me in my local pub, and I was unaware. And I was there, and I was, the state I don't wish to remember I was in. But he was delivering the mail. He's like, is Matt all right? Because I saw him in whispers, and and that was not good. That was very close to to Christmas before I went into rehab.
Do you know, it's amazing that now here you are, and you are re-signed to Sony. Now,
I know. I mean, this is
yeah. These guys sacked you in the beginning, and now here you are with a fourth album. Time to be. Is this the time to be alive, Matt Cardle?
Yeah, well, I hope so for me. The thing is, re-signing to Sony has been even sweeter than me winning the X Factor, because that was, and I mean it. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the votes that I got, but that. I'd already signed that deal before I went into the contestant house. Everybody did, and they just picked up the one that was relevant to whoever won.
Right.
It was that contract wasn't aimed at me; it was aimed at the winner, and I was the winner. So it was an obligation. Whereas this, I've gone away. I've hit rock bottom. I've come back. I've written this album in a hopeful way about that experience, and I've approached Sony off my own back, and they have picked me up again, and that's making this whole thing so sweet right now.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, how did that conversation go?
It was amazing. I was very emotional, close to tears a lot of the time. But they even said to me on one of the second meetings, how would you feel about coming back to Sony? I'm like, are you joking?
Just give me the contract.
Yeah. Let me think. Yeah, I've thought about it. It's fine. Are you joking? As if I would say anything but yes, please. I'd love to come back.
And what is your life like now? You don't touch drugs or pills or
well,
booze?
I
mean, that's it. Nothing now. Or
well, I certainly don't touch any prescription drugs. That is an absolute abstinence affair with me.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, I grew up as a hedonistic person. I do enjoy, let's put it as the party.
You are a party animal.
I'm a bit of a party animal, so I do enjoy that, and I'm very, very heady, and I always have and always will be. So I didn't consider complete abstinence as control. I just don't see it that way in my head. I have to. That's just someone taking the ball off me, and you're not allowed to play with it. You go and sit down on the subs bench. I needed to be able to play with the ball and have it under control.
Right.
So I started, after 19 months of sobriety, I started drinking again within moderation and slowly getting back to my normal life minus the prescription drugs. Right. I mean, all roads lead to Rome in this situation. I know that, and if I fall prey to anything, I know where I can go to sort myself out. I can get the help I need. But let's just say I'm back on the pitch.
Okay, he's back on the pitch, and he's in the first team, ladies
I'm in
and
the
gentlemen.
first team.
He's not in the B team, he's in the A team.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you worry when you look at the likes of Ant McPartlin? Because he seems to be a troubled soul. And can you recognise stuff?
I mean, I don't know Ant personally.
No.
I don't, and I was never close enough watching those shows enough to even to be keeping an eye on. The thing is with prescription drugs is they go under the radar until it's too late. All I can say about Ant is that I just hope that he gets the break that he needs when he comes out of wherever he's gone to sort himself out.
Yeah.
I just hope he gets time to really resettle himself back into life before he thinks about working, because when you come out of rehab, you're like a seed freshly planted in a nice bit of soil. You need looking after, you need just stillness, you need steadiness to maintain a recovery, and that's what I hope he has.
Now look, this new album, do you think that your reseeded, your resettledness has helped you write this new album?
It definitely has. When I was sat there, going through what I was going through, I knew that this would come out in form of an album. In the form of an album, I didn't want to write it from that place. I didn't want this album to be dark and full of despair and be full of hopelessness, because that's where I was and that was how I was feeling at the time. I wanted it to be uplifting. I wanted it to be positive and hopeful, and it is all of those things, because I had a nice, nearly a year after I came out to resettle myself and then look retrospectively at the situation and reflect properly on what had happened, and write about it honestly and with clear vision, and that's what I've done.
This is the thing. From heartache comes either great poetry or great literature or great songs, but actually you do actually want to have a nice life at the end of of the day. So,
Yeah.
you know, how does that marry with, you know, you're able to write on you know, the bad stuff, but actually you want to have a good life and you want to be happy.
Yeah.
So then how do you write?
Well, this year, yeah, you make such a good point. And growing up, I looked up to Kurt Cobain. I wanted to be troubled. I wanted to be, you know, living under a bridge with a guitar with two strings and you know, I wanted that sort of pain and anguish so I could legitimize what I was doing with my music. But, you know, I love my parents. They were lovely to me. You know, I didn't have that. So, you know, I mean, there's always been pain and heartache in my songs because it's to do with relationships that haven't gone wrong. But now, weirdly, I'm thankful for this darkness that I've managed to make it through. That I can actually now pour it into my music, and for me, legitimize this piece of art that I've created here. But now I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? You can't live in despair just so you can create good music.
No.
Although I've often thought...
Try not to.
Try not to. I've often thought, you know, was my last relationship breakdown like self-sabotage? So I had...
So you can hit single.
So exactly. So I can have
Do you know what? You're a mercenary, Matt.
Well, I honestly thought that at one stage. It wasn't, but, you know, and I never intentionally did this to myself. But, you know, I'm strangely thankful for this, you know, experience to pour back into the record.
Yeah, well, the album is called Time to Be Alive, and the single that everybody's talking about and people are playing all over the place, Desire. Tell me about that.
Well,
have you been walking in your sleep and talking in my dreams?
I had been. I really had been. You know what? Desire is a very simple song. It's about love. It's about lust. It's about instant attraction. It's about you know.
I saw that in the video actually.
Yeah,
did
exactly.
you know the young lady in question?
I did, yes, thankfully. Yeah. But, you know, there's about 30 people in that room while all that's going on. So there's intimacy and then there's that.
How difficult is that? I mean, how well did you know her? Did you sort of meet her the day before?
No,
or is she a mate?
No, she's a friend of a friend. And do you know what? I knew that was going to be the
scenario.
Yeah, I knew this was going to end up happening. So I was like, I really want to know this person. I was like, Jerry, do you mind if we, you know? But again, when I did a video in LA a few years back called Lately, and I went out for a drink with the girl because it was Lately was like Desire and some. I mean, this was like a lot heavier, you know, going on. But I wanted to go, you know, I wanted to just try and build out some sort of rapport with the person because you can't just dive in like that.
No,
she could turn up and you could both not gel or whatever. You know?
It looked very convincing. I think you gelled.
Okay, yeah.
I think you did.
Well, we pulled it off.
You certainly did, young man. How pleased are you with the single?
I'm absolutely over the moon. The reaction's been amazing. It's such a departure from where I've been before musically or anything I've done before. So just the fact that it's getting the reaction that it's getting, you know, that it's getting the support at radio that it's getting, and I'm just absolutely over the moon. There is so much more to come with this album as well.
Yeah.
This is merely the beginning.
I am so glad that you've pulled yourself together, young man.
Thank you.
No, I am, seriously, because I loved you on The X Factor.
Thank
I
you.
loved everything about you, and the fact that you are a musician and that you know how to write and you know how to play. To lose that was awful. So this is just, it is like all my Christmases have come at once, Cardle.
Thank you, Georgey.
So, look,
thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure, and thank you for coming on the show. I'm going to play the single now, if that's all right.
Lovely, thank you so much.
Oh, Matt Cardle's new single, Desire, from his new album, the fourth one, Time to Be Alive. You're listening to Georgey Tonight, right across BBC Local Radio in England and the Channel Islands. Matt Cardle and his new single, Desire, from the album Time to Be Alive. He was re-signed to Sony. He sounds such a lovely man, doesn't he? And it sounds like he's got it together, which is good. He's pulled himself together. How'd you say it? You know what it's like. It's the stepmother in me. Yeah, evil.